Good evening. You're watching The Digital Age. I'm Jim Zirin. Tonight we have a terrific but sobering show for you about the easy availability of drugs on the internet. For indeed, You've Got Mail is rapidly being replaced by You've Got Drugs. And our question is, how is it that the internet has become the drug dealer of choice, not only for adults, but also for our children? And secondly, what is to be done about it? And our guest tonight is an expert in the field. He is a former presidential advisor. He is a former cabinet member. He is the author of the best-selling book, High Society. And he is the chairman and founder of the Center on Addiction and Substance Abuse at Columbia University. He's Joseph A. Califano, Jr. Joe Califano, welcome.
It's nice to be with you, Joe.
Well, it's good to be with you always. Now, of course, substance abuse has long been a problem for adults, but we see even more rapidly it's becoming a central issue for our children. How did this happen?
Well, I mean, I think availability to kids, the kids were targeted by drug dealers, and really, when you look back on the history of substance abuse, in the beginning, it's all about kids. If you can get a kid through age 21 without smoking, without abusing alcohol, most will drink, without using illegal or prescription drugs, that kid's virtually certain to be home free. But what we have now, especially with the internet, I mean, for our children, the internet has become a pharmaceutical candy store. I mean, they can go on there and all they need is a credit card and a mouse, and they can get just about anything they want.
It's unbelievable. And why is it that so many children are turning to drugs?
Well, you know, I think this is a, you know, there are a lot of fundamental questions here. I mean, one, I think it's lack of parental engagement in their lives in many cases. We know that the more parents are engaged, the more they have dinner with their kids, the less likely kids are to get into this stuff. I think the fact that this stuff is so easy to get, there's so much glamorization of it. I mean, you know, you think of the world of pop stars. You know, remember there used to be a world of Judy Garland and Shirley Temple. You know, now it's
somewhere
Britney.
Over the rainbow.
Yeah, now it's Britney Spears and Lindsay Lohan, and you see all these tragic examples. Heath Ledger dying of a drug overdose. There's a lot in the music about drugs, a lot of stuff in the music for kids.
Well, have we sufficiently made the case to kids that drugs are really dangerous and can be life-threatening?
I don't think kids understand. It's interesting. We do focus groups, Jim, every year of 12 to 17-year-olds. And what really comes out of, one of the things that comes out of them, they get the message on smoking. Now, some of them may still smoke, but boy, smoking cigarettes, most of them really now think it's just dumb. They haven't gotten the message on drugs. When they talk about smoking, most of the time they're talking about smoking pot. And they certainly haven't gotten the message on drugs, particularly prescription drugs. You know what we have, the government puts out numbers and they say we have a decline in illegal drug use. We have a very modest decline.
They're talking about cocaine and heroin.
Cocaine, heroin, marijuana. But what they don't say is if we calculate the explosion in prescription drug abuse by kids, we don't have a decline, we have an increase. I mean, the number of kids using prescription drugs has more than tripled over the last 10 years. I mean abusing, not using. I mean taking drugs like Ritalin or Adderall or Vicodin or what have you to get high.
Well, this is a central issue confronting Americans now because, I mean, you look at the New York Times bestseller list. The #1 bestseller was David Sheff's book about his son's addiction and near-death experience.
And there's one wonderful tragic example in that book beyond, it struck me beyond anything. When his son was 12 years old, smoking marijuana, David goes to the teacher, and the teacher says, it's just a passing phase. These kids just do it. I mean, we do not understand how dangerous that drug is. Now, you know, the tragic story, but this kid lived. This kid ultimately survived and
he was lucky.
His life back together again. He was lucky. I mean, smoking marijuana is a game of Russian roulette, and the gun's got more than one bullet in the chamber.
And Nick Sheff went on and bought drugs on the internet, didn't he? That's
Yes.
in the book.
He bought drugs on the internet, and like any other kid, they can get drugs on the internet.
What about our college students? I mean, you've talked about they're giving higher education a new meaning.
Yeah, they are. I said we have to get the high out of higher education. To me, alcohol is the #1 drug on college campuses. And alcohol, every year, 1,700 kids die on college campuses from alcohol poisoning or alcohol accidents. And think about that in the context of Virginia Tech, 32 kids shot by a crazy kid with a gun. The country went into national mourning. Every year, 1,700 kids die as a result of alcohol poisoning or alcohol accidents or violence. 100,000 kids are sexually abused and raped on college campuses because of alcohol abuse, and about 700,000 are injured.
Or substance abuse, you have date rape drugs as well.
You bet. But again, you mentioned prescription drugs. Again, the greatest increase in drug abuse on college campuses is the increase in prescription drug abuse. And there, the internet is a real culprit because it's easy for them to get on the internet, order the drugs, and get them mailed to their dorm. You know, if they're living at home and these, a FedEx package comes or a package comes, and their parents may say, what's in that package? Why do you get this package every 2 weeks? But at the college dormitory, there's nobody watching.
Now, these internet drugs perform important health purposes, don't they? They're prescribed by, the prescription drugs, they're prescribed by doctors.
Very important point, Jim. Very important point. I mean, because what's happened is our children, our teenagers, and even our college students have come to believe that it's safer to use prescription drugs. I'm better off if I'm using OxyContin because I'm not buying something from some drug dealer. I'm buying a drug that has been approved by the FDA, and incidentally, mommy or daddy may be using it. They may be taking the Xanax as a tranquilizer. They may be using Vicodin because they've got a pain problem. They're using it properly, I hope. And that the medicine cabinet, a couple of generations ago, parents used to lock the liquor cabinet. Remember, they'd lock the liquor. Don't want the kids to get at the booze, okay? We're reaching a point in this country where some parents better start thinking about locking the medicine cabinet.
But these kids don't just take the pill, do they? They take OxyContin, they pulverize it in some way, which gives them much more of a kick.
Exactly. They crush the pill, and so they get it all at one time, instead of a pill that serves a very important purpose that can be used to keep you pain-free for a half a day or a day. And it's interesting, the first evidence we really had of OxyContin abuse and deaths was in Kentucky and West Virginia, among the kids there. And what was really happening were these were minors. Minors were their parents, and they'd broken their back or hurt their back or what have you, and OxyContin was enabling them to work. The kids, we reached a point in those parts of the country where drugstores would put signs in the window saying no OxyContin available here because it's very addictive.
It's a very powerful opiate, isn't that right?
Yes.
Well, as the phrase was always, let's go to the videotape, let's go to the net, let's do an experiment.
Let's do an experiment.
And you go on your computer
what do you
there.
Want?
And
what do you want to buy?
I want to buy Vicodin without a prescription.
Okay, so you just bang it in. I'm on Google. I was on Google search. I typed in buy Vicodin without a prescription.
How many hits?
Look at the screen. Almost 2.5 million hits. 2.5 million.
That is incredible. Now,
what else do you want?
Let's take another one. Let's take Xanax. Suppose I want Xanax without a prescription.
Let me bang in Xanax where we had Xanax without a prescription. Let's see what comes up here. God, well over 1 million.
These are
Well over.
these are drugs that are being commonly abused by
Commonly
kids
abused
in college.
by kids.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and adults as well, I guess.
And
to some
adults as
degree.
well, but this this is so easy for a college student or even a teenager. You know, a lot of teenagers have their own credit card, and as you know, there are ways in which they can use their parents' credit card, get it concealed, and buy it, have it charged to their parents' credit card, and the charge on the credit card will be cosmetics.
Yes.
It'll be you know,
Masks
combs.
the true purchase.
Absolutely.
Now, what about Adderall? Adderall's a very popular drug. It was mentioned in the movie Juno.
Yeah.
Adderall, put Adderall in. Buy Adderall without a prescription.
If you look at Adderall without a prescription, we get about almost 1.3 million hits. And you know, Adderall, incidentally, is one of the most sold drugs by one kid to another kid. In many cases where it's been prescribed to a child to help him with conduct disorder, and he doesn't take all of it. He sells some of it to his pals.
Do you think doctors are overprescribing these drugs?
I think doctors may be overprescribing Ritalin and Adderall. I think the issue there is really when the school says, you know, to the parents, you know, your kid needs Adderall, you have to get it, or Ritalin, get him something to calm him down. The school, with all due respect, the school and the school nurse not really representing the kid. Parents should get their own doctor, have their own doctor look at whether their child needs that drug or not. The child may just need a little discipline.
I mean, when the teacher called your father and said, Joseph isn't paying attention in class, he didn't give you a pill, did he? He gave you something else.
Yeah, he sure did. He gave all of us something else. That's right. That's right.
Now, what about how to grow pot? Suppose I'd like to grow pot.
You can
right
bang
by
that
the
in.
window.
We can bang that. We'd go to Google and we'll just bang in how to grow pot.
How many hits?
You know, more than 500,000.
More than 500,000
More than
hits.
500,000 hits. And it'll tell you how to grow it, You want, you know, you can go hydroponic pot. Do you want to grow stronger pot? Where to get the seeds? I mean,
they know where to get the water, and
they know where to get the water.
Now, the drug that did Nick Sheff in was meth.
Right.
Meth is a very powerful drug that's
Very
commonly
powerful
abused and dangerous.
Dangerous
and
drug. Cheap.
And cheap. Now, suppose you put in how to make meth.
Well, let's bang it in and see what happens.
Right there on Google.
Bang it in. How to make meth. My God, you're talking about almost 400,000 sites. How to make meth.
Incredible. Now, you told me that you recently became a member of YouTube.
I joined YouTube because when we were talking about the show, I banged in how to make meth, and one of the sites was, you know, go to YouTube. So I joined YouTube. I went to YouTube. I went in how to make meth, and the first or second item is a video of how to make meth with guys going to the store, buying the ingredients you need, ordinary ingredients, off the supermarket shelf, off the drugstore shelf, going back home, showing you how to mix them, then heat them, grind them up, crush them, snort them.
So in case Johnny doesn't read, he can get it all on YouTube.
He can get it all on YouTube, often with music. I mean, this is, you know, this show has become one of the centerpieces in the whole raising the issues of the digital age. I mean, I would submit to you, Jim, this is one of the major issues of the digital age. What do we do with the internet in terms of what the access it's giving our children to drugs and how to use them and what to do with them?
So, I mean, your book is called The High Society. Do you think we really have an expanding drug culture to the point of a pandemic?
I think we have a pandemic in this country. The low point in drug use, the peak in drug use was 1979. The low point was 1992. The last couple of years we've seen some declines in modest declines in marijuana use, in heroin use, and cocaine use. We haven't seen declines in the intense users of drugs like marijuana, the people that are smoking them every single day. and we've seen an explosion in prescription drug abuse. So it's like a pillow. We're down here, we're up here. We are roughly at twice what we were at the lowest point in 1992, and we have to get back there.
We're in a political season. We have three apparent candidates for president. One is the spouse of a former president who said he used marijuana but didn't inhale. Another one has admitted the use of marijuana and cocaine. And the third we haven't heard from. But do you see a difference in the positions of the three candidates when it comes to drug abuse?
I see virtually no discussion of the issue of drugs among the three candidates in any of the debates. It's incredible. It's like the elephant in the room. You know, they talk about the cost of Medicare and Medicaid. Well, a big part of that cost are drug abusers and alcoholics. They talk about crime. They want to do something with crime. Well, most of the people in our prisons have drug and alcohol problems. They talk about, you know, the family, child welfare, the child abuse. 70% of the kids that are abused in this country are abused by drug and alcohol abusing parents. I mean, they're not dealing with the problem. And it's very important that the president do it. I mean, Clinton provides a wonderful example. He made light of marijuana, said, I smoked it, but I didn't inhale. Well, marijuana use went up during the Clinton presidency, okay? He made a major campaign against cigarette smoking. First president to really take that issue on. Took it on full bore. Significant declines in cigarette smoking during his years.
Well, then, of course, we have the incumbent president. Has any progress been made by his administration in the war on drugs?
No, we've had a slight decline. They focus very much on marijuana. We've had a slight decline in marijuana use, but we've had this explosion of prescription drug abuse. I think, you know, the war gets blamed for a lot of things, actually. Early in the Bush administration, I went to see President Bush. He talked to me, talked to Charlie Rangel, the chairman of the House and Ways and Means Committee, but the congressman from Harlem, on the drug issue. And we had 2 meetings with him, actually, very small meetings in the first 6 months of his presidency. And we thought, my God, we have a president that's really going to take this issue on. And I think he got terribly distracted by the war. And he understands it. I mean, the president is clearly a recovering alcoholic and maybe a recovering drug user, you know, but he understands this issue, but we haven't dealt with it.
Well, he's focused mainly on the supply side, on vigorous law enforcement, on defoliation, in Latin America, on ways to interdict the drug supply.
Right. You're absolutely right. I mean, the battle here, in a free country with the limits we'll put on restrictions. I mean, you know, we've been talking about the internet. How many pieces of mail, little packages, are we going to be able to open up coming into the United States that contain these drugs? We've got to get demand down. We are 4% of the world's population, as I point out, in high society. We consume 2/3 of the world's illegal drugs.
Another interesting aspect is that if one were to purchase any of these drugs you mentioned in a pharmacy with a prescription, the drug would be handed to you with some very stern warnings as to the consequences that might flow from misuse or overuse. And now online, if one were to go to any of these sites, do we get the warnings?
No, you don't get the warnings. You just get the drugs. And also remember, if you buy this in a pharmacy, there's a form filled out in triplicate.
Yep.
There are clear records. It's you know, very carefully watched how your prescription is refilled and how often it is refilled.
I mean, the warning with Adderall, for example, well, just to read part of it, misuse or abuse of amphetamine may result in serious, possibly fatal heart and blood pressure problems. Sudden death, stroke, and myocardial infarction may have been reported in adults taking stimulant drugs at usual doses for ADHD. That's the attention disorder for which it's prescribed. You look at Vicodin, may cause drowsiness, dizziness, blurred vision, or lightheadedness. Oxycontin's an opioid and a Schedule II controlled substance, you're warned. You don't get any of this online.
None of it, none of it. And you know, and it's tragic because actually just yesterday I met with a professor at Dartmouth and his wife, who was a psychologist. They lost a son at the University of Indiana who died from an overdose of prescription drugs.
So tragic.
And they think that they were getting the drugs over the internet, and that that kids on the campus were drug dealers who were getting the drugs over the internet and then selling them.
Reselling them at a profit. It's a business.
Yeah.
Now, to say something good about the internet, there are sites where you can get these warnings, such as www.drugs.com and www.rxlist.com or webmd.com.
Absolutely. There are sites like that. And there's also a CasaColumbia.org site, CasaColumbia.org, where you can learn a lot about, especially if you're a parent, about prescription drugs. Every year we do an analysis of, we call it You've Got Drugs, of the sites from which you can buy drugs. And over the last 3 years, up to last year's analysis, it's gone up 70%. We're doing another analysis this year, which we'll probably release sometime in June. And also Congress, I mean, Senator Dianne Feinstein and Congressman Sessions Senator Sessions, I should say, of Alabama, the left and the right, proposed legislation to try and put some curbs on this, to try and require that the internet not post any sites unless the pharmacy is a legitimate certified pharmacy, and also to require that if you buy your drugs over the internet, you have a real prescription from a doctor that has actually seen you, not something you fax into Mexico or to Bangladesh. And that bill has been reported out by Senator Leahy, the Judiciary Committee, passed the Senate. No action at all in the House yet. But you know a lot about the internet and other problems on the internet. It provides wonderful opportunities, but we have to get control over the dangerous, dark side of the internet.
Well, of course, the problem as well is you want to communicate information as widely as possible. You want to inform people, but you find on the internet things like recipes for the drink Purple Haze. Purple Haze was a song that was written by Jimi Hendrix, who died of a drug overdose, popularized by Britney Spears. We don't need to discuss her behavior, but it was a drink, I think it contains vodka and rum in high concentrations that she reputedly likes to consume. And this is where kids are finding their role models.
Absolutely, and on the and you can also, we didn't bang it in, but you can bang in drinking games on Google.
Drinking games?
Drinking games. Hit enter, and you'll get thousands and thousands of sites that'll give you all kinds of drinking games you can play. Now,
other than calling CASA for help, what can we do really to stop this very disturbing trend? I mean, you spoke of the financial intermediaries, the credit card companies.
Look, I think there's a lot.
Where else can we bring?
I think
pressure?
There's a lot of responsibility here. I mean, I think. But let me just start with parents. I think, under almost any circumstances over the next few years, because it takes so long to do something, parents have got to monitor their kids' use of the internet. They really have to be alert to this. They don't have any idea. I bet of all the parents that are listening to us tonight, I'd be surprised if there were one or two that had ever gone on YouTube and found out how to make meth, or gone on Google and found out how to grow really strong, powerful marijuana. I think the Congress, the federal Congress has got to act. The state attorneys general are beginning to look at this problem and try and do something about it. But I think Congress has got to require that that there be some restrictions. I mean, there are things that are not on, that you can't search on Google. There are things you can't search on Yahoo. I think the credit card companies, American Express is beginning to do something about it.
PayPal, are they doing anything? They're leading some kind of a study, I heard.
Yeah, and you know, don't know if people know what PayPal is.
Well, PayPal is where you put in your favorite credit card, and then you just have to go to PayPal, and then they'll charge your credit card. And so there's actually just one username and password, and you can pay for anything on the internet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So it makes it easy.
And I think for example, I mean, I think these servers should not be allowed to list pharmacies that are not certified. There's a whole certification thing. The problem, though, as we both know, this is an international problem too. You know, where do you think this is on the radar screen of the State Department?
No.
Because a lot of this stuff comes from overseas, and we've got to get other countries interested in dealing with this problem, and I think they're becoming interested.
How about the internet service providers? Can they do something to knock these sites off the internet, or the search engines? I mean, could Google do something?
Well, yes, we think they can. They
get the
haven't,
rogue
but we think they
sites
can.
off the internet?
Nobody wants to take on any responsibility. I mean, what you get is, you know, it reminds me of what you get is it's impossible to do it. There's no way to do it. You know, it reminds me of, you know, all the things I remember in the years I worked for Lyndon Johnson when we proposed auto safety. And we proposed seat belts, and we proposed rubber dashboards and all kinds, and the and lights high enough so you could see it from the rear. And they said, oh, it'll destroy the automobile. We don't have no way of doing it. It's too expensive. It's impossible. It's not impossible.
Well, Joe Califano, we have to wrap up, unfortunately, because this is absolutely fascinating. But I have a question for you. Has You've Got Drugs replaced You've Got Mail on the internet?
I think You've Got Drugs is a big part of You've Got Mail for too many American teenagers.
This is marvelous. Thank you so much for coming by. And thank you for coming by. Tune in next week for more on the digital age. For the digital age, I'm Jim Zirin. Good night and all the best.